Artifact visualization and interaction. Just a quick reminder on the quite informal definition of the term artifact as we use it. An annotation defined on multiple anchor points, capturing relationships across multiple documents while preserving the context. If you want to know all the gory details, please have a look at the other screencast entitled From Annotations to Artifacts. To be more concrete, here's a screenshot of our example artifact, this time in Windows. The background is the lab assignment in an operating system class where the student is asked to implement the well-known dining philosophers problem. The artifact captures the student's problem of running into a deadlock. You see the task description in the upper right, the suspicious piece of code in the upper left, the trace run resulting in the deadlock is shown in the lower left corner, and the annotation describing the problem finally is in the lower right. Well, this is just one example artifact. While in the real-world settings, it is to be expected that the number of documents, annotations, and finally artifacts is becoming pretty big. So we need sophisticated tools to browse the artifact repository, or, as we call it, artifact space, as well as the possibility to interact live with the documents involved. That's where the artifact space visualization joins the picture. Ready for takeoff? Let's go and launch the artifact space visualization. The demo artifact space is populated with a handful documents, containing a bunch of anchor points, and of course there are also some artifacts to play with. Simply grab the icons to move them around. The greenish icons represent documents, the orange ones are the annotations. When zooming into the artifact space, then at a certain moment an additional level of detail is added. The white boxes that appear represent the anchor points defined within the documents. When hovering the mouse over an element, all related elements will be highlighted. The degree of highlighting depends on the distance to the currently selected element. If you have a photographic memory, you might recall some facets from our Dining Philosophers artifact. The orange box in the center shows a snapshot of the annotation, and the three connected white boxes in turn show previews of the three anchor points the artifact refers to. Here's the task description in the exercise sheet, there's the suspicious piece of code, and here we have the trace run. When following the connection lines from the white boxes even further, you arrive at the documents containing those anchor points. For example, the Dining Philosopher's task description is contained in that exercise sheet, which in turn contains three other anchor points. It is also possible to interact live with the document repository while browsing through the artifact space. Control-clicking on an anchor point launches the associated application and restores the context, meaning that the application automatically navigates to the according region within the document where the anchor point is defined. You can see that the greenish document icon in the visualization is in fact a preview of the first page of the document. This fosters a kind of déjà vu effect while browsing through the artifact space. If desired, it's of course possible to work on the document, just as if it has been opened as usual. The document is opened in its native application, it's not just a dumb viewer or so. Closing the application brings us back to the artifact space visualization where we left off before. Up to now we've been interacting with the artifact space in a two-dimensional fashion. There is also a three-dimensional view, allowing for more sophisticated browsing. You have all the regular controls to move, zoom in and out, as well as for tilting. In this view, artifacts are arranged in levels. This becomes apparent when tilting the view by somewhat more than 90 degrees. The distance between the different elements, meaning the number of hops required to navigate from one element to another, becomes pretty obvious in this way. That way, finding related information can be achieved rather quickly. Of course, element highlighting also works in the three-dimensional view. Maybe you recognized already that this set of elements belongs to our dazzling example artifact. Let's zoom in a bit closer. Great. Another quite useful feature is the preview window, revealing more details about particular elements. Hovering over an orange box shows a thumbnail of the annotation plus the list of anchor points referred to, together with their enclosing documents. Hovering over a document reveals a thumbnail plus the list of all anchor points within that document. In case of an anchor point, the associated excerpt of the underlying document is displayed. This way you can get a sneak preview of all the elements involved, picking the ones you are particularly interested in. Found one? Fantastic! Just control-click on an orange box to restore the entire artifact. All documents involved will be opened in their associated application, again automatically navigating to the according region as defined by the anchor points and highlighted by an animated blue frame. There's the task description in the exercise sheet, the suspicious piece of code, the trace run resulting in the deadlock the student is aiming to solve, and finally the annotation itself. The visualization of the artifact effectively is a live preview. This becomes most apparent with respect to the trace run shown in the lower left window. Clicking on one of those live previews zooms into the window. Clicking on the button in the middle of such a preview brings the native application to the front. The user now can work in that application just as usual. Because the initial focus is on the anchor point and thus on the suspicious piece of code, it's possible now to directly concentrate on fixing the bug. Back in the Artefact browser, you can switch to another document. Clicking on the trace run brings it to the front. Again, it's the native application being presented. And it's possible to interact with it, speeding up the trace execution like in this example. And here we are. The trace run really results in a deadlock. Back again in the artifact visualization. The current view aims at focusing on the anchor points. It's possible to switch to a different layout, showing the entire application windows instead. Just like in the initial layout, applications can be brought to the front by clicking in the live preview. And that's it with the live example. Artifacts, together with their visualization, are subject to ongoing research. Early prototypes are working, as you have seen. However, there's certainly still much room for improvements. So stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.